So welcome to Jumbo IS and welcome to our lecture series called Daily News in Shorts. In this lecture series, we cover a particular day's current affairs in a short span of time. Now, I know we haven't been that regular with our current affairs lecture series because of health reasons. I was not feeling well, I was under the weather. That is why we have missed 1 or 2 days for current affairs. But that doesn't mean we won't cover those current affairs. You can solely rely on us for your current affairs requirements as far as UPSC examination is concerned. So the backlog, 26th, 27th December's current affairs would be covered in today's lecture. So today's lecture would be basically an amalgamation of 2 days of current affairs. Though 26th or 27th December's newspapers were not that heavy when it comes to UPSC related current affairs, but nonetheless, whatever current affairs were there in those newspapers, well, if they are relevant for UPSC, they are important for us. So we will cover all of them. Like I said before, you don't have to worry about your current affairs portion if you are solely relying on us. So in today's lecture, we will cover 26th and 27th December's current affairs combined into one lecture. Okay, so let's begin. By the way, before starting, you all know this is the daily ritual I do at the start of every current affairs lecture. You have to revise your current affairs just after watching this lecture. Okay, now you can revise this lecture from the notes provided by us. And these notes are shared on our Telegram channel. Okay, the link to our Telegram channel is provided in the comment section below. All right, let's begin today's discussion. Let's cover all the pending current affairs so that from next lecture onwards, we will start afresh. All right, then let's begin. So daily current affairs, 26, 27 December, that is Friday and Saturday's current affairs. And let's take a look at the list of topics first. Okay, so topic number 1 is recognition of Somaliland. Recently, Israel became the first country to recognize Somaliland, a part of Somalia. Now, what is this history? What is the background of this entire issue? It's fascinating. It's important. Okay, so we'll talk about this. And topic number 2 is related to, well, India's law enforcement agencies on AI. India's police and other law enforcement agencies are now dependent on artificial intelligence for their crime solving and everything. Now, what are the benefits and concerns with respect to over-dependence on AI? We'll talk about this. Then topic number 2 is related to protection of Great Indian Bustard. Great Indian Bustard, a bird mostly found in Rajasthan and Gujarat. Well, it was threatened by the power lines. Okay, the Great Indian Bustard used to collide with the electricity lines, crisscrossing Rajasthan and Gujarat. So recently, Supreme Court came out with a directive. So we'll talk about this. And in the end, we'll talk about a report which says that Global South is disproportionately facing the burden of climate disasters. Now, what is Global South? Developing countries. Okay, so these are the 4 news items that we'll talk about. Topic number 1 is related to international relations portion of your UPSC syllabus. Topic number 2 is related to polity as well as science and technology portion of your UPSC syllabus because we are talking about AI. Topic number 3 is related to environment portion, and topic number 4 again related to environment portion of your UPSC syllabus with a hint of international relations because we are going to talk about climate agreements. Okay, so these are the 4 news items. Let's start discussing them one by one, starting with topic number 1, and that is recognition of Somaliland. Now listen to me very carefully, okay? You all must have heard about this country called Somalia. It lies in Eastern Africa. Particularly, that particular region of Eastern Africa is known as Horn of Africa, which lies very close to Red Sea. And Red Sea is a key shipping route for trade between Europe and Asia. Yes, so its strategic location is quite important. Now, Somalia, before it became independent, well, it was colonized by both English, that is UK, and Italy. Now, the English portion or the, well, let's say Great Britain's colony was different and Italian Somalia was different. Once these 2 parts became independent, they were unified and the greater country of Somalia was created. Now, this country functioned properly under a dictatorship until 1991. In 1991, the central government collapsed and it created a civil war-like situation. Somalia currently is still in a civil war-like situation and there is no central government that controls the entire country. Okay, it is a failed state. The thing is that the British colony of Somalia, that portion, is under the control of one particular faction of the civil war. And they declared independence from Somalia in 1991. That particular portion is known as Somaliland. So the people who are ruling Somaliland, okay, well, that particular portion of Somalia, I'll show it in a map, they have declared independence. But no country so far, including African Union, has recognized their independence. No country has recognized their independence so far. But Israel became the first country to recognize the independent status of Somaliland. The Somalian people are not happy with this. Somaliland people are happy, but Somalian people are not happy with this. African Union is not happy with this, but America and Israel, they are happy with this, and they have certain reasons why they recognize Somaliland. We'll talk about that when I'll show you Somaliland's location on the map. Clear? Make sense? So this is the background. So let's unravel this entire situation, because it is very important for your international relations portion, especially in your prelims examination. An MCQ can be asked, okay, or a map-based question can be asked. So let's talk about this, okay? So recognition of Somaliland. So what was in the news? Israel's recognition of Somaliland on December 26th marks a significant geopolitical development in the Horn of Africa, framed in the context of Abraham Accords. Now, Abraham Accord is basically a peace accord between Israel and its neighboring Arab states, including Saudi Arabia and all. Okay. Now, let's take a look at the map. So this is, if you can see it clearly, okay, this is basically your entire Somalia. Okay. This is Africa. This is Ethiopia. This entire region was Somalia. Now, this existed till 1991. Now, from this, in 1991, this portion declared independence. They are called Somaliland. Now, this is Gulf of Aden, and from here, there is Red Sea. Now, listen to me very carefully. Well, Somalia, Africa do not share very good relations with Israel. But Somaliland has said that we want to have good relations with Israel. Okay. Now, I'm so sorry. If Israel, Somaliland have friendly relations, then Israel will have an ally over here. All the ships passing through this, trade ships passing through this, which were basically threatened by Houthis in Yemen, well, they would be countered by Israeli forces in Somaliland or a friendly force in Somaliland. Basically, Israel wants a friend over here, because most of the trade ships or naval ships that were passing through this were threatened by Houthis who occupied Yemen. So Israel needs an ally over here. Okay. Now, Somaliland people declared that they are more in favor of Israel and America than any other. So that is why Israel recognized them. Okay. That's the thing. Now, as far as the background of this entire issue is concerned, well, let's talk about this. So, Somaliland, a self-declared republic in the Horn of Africa. So, this particular region is known as Horn of Africa. Traces its roots to British Somaliland, which gained independence in 1960 and merged with Italian Somaliland to form Somali Republic, which is Somalia. Under Siad Barre's, the dictator of Somalia, till 1991, oppressive policies against Isaac clan, including the brutal suppression of Somali National Movement rebellion in 1988. Now, this Somali National Movement people basically overthrew this dictator in 1991 and declared independence. Now, their area today is called Somaliland. Okay, the SNM ousted Barre in 1991, prompting Somaliland's declaration of independence. It now operates with its own currency, passports, and security forces, but lacked formal recognition by any country until Israel. Make sense? So this is the background. Now, what about Israel's recognition? What is the significance of this move? So on December 26, 2025, Israel became the first UN member state to recognize Somaliland as a sovereign nation via joint declaration signed virtually by PM Benjamin Netanyahu. Somaliland's Berbera port lies at the Gulf of Aden entrance, okay, near the Bab el-Mandab Strait, a choke point for Red Sea Indian Ocean trade. So this particular area is Bab el-Mandab Strait, this is Gulf of Aden, and Somaliland's Berbera port is over here. If you can see, this is the Berbera port. It lies close to Bab el-Mandab Strait. which is threatened by Houthis. So that is why it has geostrategic significance. Offering Israel intelligence monitoring of Houthis, logistical support against them, and countering UAE operated facilities over there. Plus, even Chinese facilities are here in Djibouti. Chinese bases in Djibouti. UAE, Arab states have certain bases over here. So Israel also wanted a presence over here, and they found a very good ally in the shape of Somaliland. So this is the geopolitical significance. Now, just remember this map. Keep this map in your mind. It is also shared in your notes because map-based MCQs are also asked in your prelims examination. Okay. Now, what are going to be the implications of this move? Consequences. The move extends Abraham Accords logic beyond West Asia. So, Abraham Accord was Israel and Arab states' peace within West Asia. But now this peace has moved to Africa also because Israel will have a presence in Africa. Arab states have a presence in Africa. Okay. It counters China's influence because China has a military base in Djibouti amid Somaliland's Taiwan recognition. So Somaliland basically recognized Taiwan. This angered China. So naturally, Somaliland becomes a natural ally to USA and Israel because it is anti-China and bolsters Israel's African ties amid regional isolation from Palestine conflicts. Because of Israel-Palestine conflict, most African countries are on the side of Palestine. So they isolated Israel. This challenges African Union's norms on colonial borders, potentially encouraging other breakaway regions. So this will encourage other regions who want to seek independence within the African countries. So African Union is worried about this. For India, it highlights Horn of Africa dynamics because India's trade with Europe also passes through Bab el-Mandab Strait, Red Sea. So India is carefully looking at this situation. Regionally, it escalates Somalia-Somaliland tension and Houthi-related risks. Okay, you all know about Houthis occupying Yemen, and it is quite close by. So these are the implications. All right. Okay. Now let's quickly shift our focus to next news item, and that is India's law enforcement on AI. Okay. Now more and more police organizations in India, law enforcement organizations in India are depending on AI. They are using AI to solve crime, counter insurgency also, counter crime, everything. They are quite reliant on AI. Now this has its own sets of advantages as well as AI has its own set of disadvantages as well. So in this topic, we will talk about the advantages, benefits and concerns of usage of AI in law enforcement. Plus, we will also take a look at certain examples of those AI tools that are being used by different police organizations. So we'll talk about examples, benefits, concerns. Okay, so let's begin. So India's law enforcement on AI. So what was in the news? India's law enforcement agencies are increasingly adopting AI tools like Maha Crime OS AI used by Maharashtra Police to enhance investigations amid rising cybercrime. Though the concerns are over AI bias, there is a problem in AI bias and privacy because AI works on data. And this data will come from people and it might involve people's personal data. So the issue of data privacy is also hanging like a sword over this. So we'll talk about concerns, we'll talk about benefits, but first let's talk about these examples. So key AI initiatives. So the biggest initiative, the most talked about initiative is Maha Crime OS AI. Okay, developed by CyberEye with Microsoft Azure, OpenAI, Sam Altman's OpenAI, the maker of ChatGPT, and Maharashtra's Marvel unit. Now, what does this AI do? It processes complaints in PDFs, any police complaint, images, videos, and regional languages to auto-generate cases for different policemen that you will investigate this, you will investigate this, suggest investigation paths that how should you investigate. So there is a police officer, let's suppose he's investigating a particular crime scene and he's stuck. So this might suggest alternative pathways, suspect profiles. If there are certain suspects, well, this AI will create profiles based on their history and legal notices. So it's a very good tool in the hands of policemen. Now, it was used as a pilot project in 23 police stations in rural Nagpur since April 2025, but it has now expanded beyond Nagpur to 1100 Maharashtra police stations in Maharashtra. Then Delhi Police also has AI facial recognition software. okay, which recognizes faces to basically nab criminals. Then CDEC, Center for Development of Advanced Computing, fake check detects deep fakes online. So it detects deep fake videos, WhatsApp messages. Bengaluru police uses AI for firecracker violation alerts from CCTV. So AI is being increasingly used. But this is a very big tool, Mahacrime OS AI. Okay. Now this obviously has a lot of benefits. What are those benefits? So this AI driven approach analyzes historical crime data, okay, CCTV footages, call logs, social patterns, and based on this data, they also forecast that a riot might erupt in this area, okay, or a crime might take place in this area. All of this can happen. This is known as, and this is a very important thing in policing, known as predictive policing. Okay, the police should be based on intelligence inputs. The police should be able to predict that situation is not looking good. There might, I mean, there can be a riot in this area in 1 week's time. Therefore, we need to call all our policemen to this area and put them over here for security. This is known as predictive policing. And predictive policing can become more efficient under using AI. Okay. Benefits include faster response, resource optimization in understaffed forces, especially in case of cyber fraud. AI processes vast data rapidly, links cases quickly, flag threats, predict threats very quickly. So these are very good advantages. And plus it also suggests policemen about their workflows, about their evidence in one place. They can suggest any idea to solve a particular crime. All this can be done. Okay, so these are some of the benefits. But naturally, there are some concerns as well, which you should be aware of as UPSC aspirants. Now, what are those concerns? So, over-reliance on AI can be harmful as well, because AI is also with faults. Some of those faults are, well, reliance on biased historical data risks perpetuating over-policing of minorities. Look, if historical crime data includes crime mostly committed by minorities, if police FIRs contain most of the crimes committed by minorities, the AI would suggest that more policemen should be stationed in minority areas and continue questioning minorities. This can lead to harassment because AI doesn't know about minority rights and all. So migrants or certain communities, as seen in Delhi riots identification. Okay, because the AI is trained on a biased data. So if that is the case, then it will always be suspicious of certain communities. Okay. Then issues include low accuracy. Some accuracy related issues have also been witnessed. Opacity in algorithms. We don't know how AI came up with that decision because we don't know how AI generates a decision. Mass surveillance, eroding privacy, weak safeguards. Predictive tools may violate proportionality. Look, Puttaswamy judgment basically gave us the right to privacy. Supreme Court judgment. As per Puttaswamy judgment, well, if you are utilizing personal data of a person, well, that should be for a public cause. Okay. And only that much personal data should be used to that is required for serving that public cause. You can't say that this is the public cause, but I need this much data. There should be proportionality. This might violate that because AI tools can use all personal data to basically improve investigations and all. Right? So these are some of the risks. Make sense? Okay. And now let's move on to next news item, and that is protection of Great Indian Bustard. Now, Great Indian Bustard is a bird. It is the largest bird that can fly. Otherwise, larger birds than Great Indian Bustard are flightless. They cannot fly. Okay. But it is the largest bird that can fly. The problem is this Great Indian Bustard is severely threatened. As per IUCN, it is categorized as or labeled as critically endangered. That means its numbers are dwindling fast. Now, this bird is mostly found in dry grasslands of Rajasthan and Gujarat. Mostly found in Rajasthan, Gujarat. Now, Rajasthan and Gujarat are famous for producing solar energy because sun shines really brightly in these areas. So, various solar parks are found over here. Wind parks are found over here. Now, the electricity generated by solar parks has to be transmitted. For that, there are these tall power lines. What happens is that most of the times, Great Indian Bustard collides with these power lines and they die. And this is a very big threat. This has led to significant population decline. Now, a case was filed in the Supreme Court by conservationists, okay, environmental activists, saying that, well, put all these power transmission lines underground. Now, that would have been really expensive. Supreme Court gave that order, okay, in 2021, that put all these transmission lines underground so that Great Indian Bustard can fly properly. But that would have been very expensive. Therefore, the government said that this would make solar energy really expensive and we won't be able to achieve our renewable energy targets in time. So we have to balance Great Indian Bustard conservation with our environmental targets or renewable energy targets. We have to balance the two. Okay, you can't make renewable energy extremely expensive. So Supreme Court corrected itself and said, okay, let's not put all these transmission lines underground, but do proper zoning. Areas where Great Indian Bustards fly frequently, over there you will not put transmission lines, okay, or you will reroute them. So if these transmission lines are like this and Great Indian Bustards frequently fly in these hotspots, well, change the direction of the transmission lines. This is a middle path between conservation and renewable energy targets. So this is the entire thing. Clear? So let's talk about it, okay? So protection of Great Indian Bustard. So the Supreme Court on December 19, 2025 issued directives balancing Great Indian Bustard conservation with India's renewable energy goals. Okay, balance, delicate balance. Accepting expert recommendations for revised priority areas. So some priority area zones would be identified. Over there, well, the transmission lines would have to take a different route. Okay, bypass it altogether. Power line mitigations in Rajasthan and Gujarat. This judgment addresses collision deaths from overhead lines amid GIB's critically endangered status. Only 150 individuals are left. Now, about Great Indian Bustard. So, about this bird, the information about this bird is given in your notes. As far as the information about this bird is concerned, we won't discuss that in the lecture, but the information is given in your notes. So, quickly go through that after this lecture, okay? But let's talk about the issue. So, GIB, one of the world's heaviest flying birds, inhabits arid grasslands in Rajasthan, Gujarat. It faces extinction risks from poor frontal vision. It does not have a good frontal vision, causing power line collisions, habitat loss, and predations. They face attacks from predators. Okay. Wildlife Institute of India 2018 report warned of certain extinction without urgent mitigation. Wildlife Institute of India in 2018, 7 years ago, said that this bird will become extinct unless we take certain steps. That is why Supreme Court in 2021 was very aggressive, saying that make all these power transition lines or shift all these power transmission lines underground. That is why, because of Wildlife Institute of India's panic report. But now, well, they are trying to balance out the entire situation. The Great Indian Bustard is classified as critically endangered on IUCN Red List because of drastic population decline. So what has this Supreme Court judgment done with this zoning and all? Well, it balances Article 21 rights. Okay, Article 21 right is right to a clean environment. Clean environment would be, well, through renewable energy. So Article 21 rights, climate commitments, because India has committed under Paris Climate Agreement that it will expand its renewable energy footprint. Okay, along with species survival. Okay, via voltage-based site-specific mitigations over blanket bans, that there can be no overground transmission lines. It should be underground. So it balances all requirements. So it is a good judgment. Okay, now it is a good judgment. Supreme Court corrected itself, basically corrected its course. All right, and now let's quickly shift our focus to last news item of the day, which is very short, and that is Global South and climate disasters. Now, first of all, you need to be aware of this term called Global South. I'm guessing that by now you are. So the world is divided into two categories. Okay, Global North is all these developed countries, Western Europe, Canada, Australia, USA. And Global South is developing countries like India, then least developed countries like, well, many island nations, okay, Fiji, and all these countries. Now, as per a recent report, it is said that climate-related disasters increased in the year of 2025. They did. But more impact or more losses were faced by Global South. Global North reported property losses. Okay, there were natural disasters in USA also, so they reported property losses to the tune of some $1 billion. But Global South not just reported property losses, it also reported life losses. More people die in climate related disasters in Global South than Global North. That is why it is said that Global South bears the brunt of climate related disasters. And these climate related disasters have increased because of climate change. And one irony is that climate change is happening because a lot of carbon emissions were done by this Global North. So Global North has caused mostly this climate change, but its effects are being faced by Global South. Is this justice? Not at all. Global South historically has not emitted that much carbon dioxide. Global North has, but the impact is faced more by Global South. Plus, under Paris Climate Agreement and many other international climate agreements, there is a financing mechanism also, which is called Adaptation Fund. How can you adapt to climate change? More money is being given, not enough money is being given to Global South, despite the fact that they are facing lot of losses. So this report puts into question this entire issue with respect to climate change or climate policy between Global North and Global South. Global South is unjustifiably facing more brunt, more losses, and they are not being compensated properly. Okay, so this is the entire issue. So let's talk about this quickly. Okay, so Global South and climate related disasters. So Christian Aid's Counting the Cost of 2025, this is the name of the report, highlights 10 climate disasters, each over $1 billion losses, totaling total of $122 billion of insured losses, counted by insurance companies basically. Those losses which were compensated by insurance companies. So for example, if your house got destroyed in a flood, your house was insured, so that was compensated. The money was spent by insurance companies, so that money has been totaled. With Asia dominating despite Global South's low emissions, this line is important. Global South has not emitted that much carbon dioxide, yet it is facing more losses. True costs exceed estimates because $122 billion is insured losses, but uninsured losses because most of the houses in developing countries were not insured. So there is no data on them. Okay. Now the key theme of this news is climate breakdown burdens low emitters. Climate disasters are burdening low carbon emitters more. 2025 marks one of the costliest years with rising GHG emissions fueling future risks. Now, in your notes, there is this list of top major disasters of 2025 and their impact. Okay, so go through this. Now, Global South's vulnerability. Global South, minimal historic emissions, not emitted that much carbon dioxide, faces amplified impacts due to weak infrastructure, agricultural dependence, and no insurance safety. There is a very famous quote which you can use in your mains answers. That is why I have shared this quote with you. Wealthy nations count financial costs. Millions in Africa, Asia, Caribbean count lost lives. This is a very famous quote, okay? That wealthy nations are counting financial losses. Developing countries are counting lives lost, homes lost, futures lost. Okay, very good quote. Now, this basically has a lot of huge, this basically puts this debate with respect to adaptation, climate finance into question. Okay, so adaptation finance shortfall. These are some of the mechanisms through which developing countries would be compensated money for climate related disasters, like adaptation gap report, COP30, debt traps, all these. But as per all these reports, developing countries are not being given enough. Make sense? Clear? And that would be all. With that, we conclude today's session. So thank you so much for watching, everyone. And I'm sure it has added value to your preparation. But like I said before, it will add more value if you're number one, consistent and regular with this lecture series. And number two, you revise it from the notes provided by us on our Telegram channel. On that note, I'll be signing off with the promise of seeing you again with another set of news items. Thank you, everyone.